I'm Sumit, and my name is not there on the slide, so you have to focus on me. And you have been given this, the program sheets where you can find my name. To find how to say it, it says Sumit. But most people can mess it up completely, so you can call me whatever you like. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about a small tool, Selenium IDE, and what's next, what's coming to us. I normally tend to call them my experiments because they work sometimes, but most times they don't work. But I try to get them to a point where they work. And today I'm going to show you the latest build of Selenium IDE that I've been playing around with, and let me tell you, most of it is not working. So that's why we need testers, isn't it? So, well, before I start, I was told that it's very cool to show your Twitter and email. I don't know if you've ever visited my blog. It's quite popular, so yeah, if you haven't been there, go there. I need more visitors. Twitter, email, I normally get locked out of email whenever I'm traveling, so Twitter is often the best way to catch me. And yeah, thinking about tools, I've been told that if you are giving a presentation, you must do this. Cats are cool. That's a kitten, but yeah. So cats are cool. Yeah. If you are wondering why is it that I am showing you pictures of animals, I must confess something. Because I don't have something to show you that's working, I thought I would show you pictures of cute animals and hope that you would really love it. Why did I say cats are cool? Because recently I moved to a Mac, and earlier I used Windows. I was using Windows for at least like 10 years. And I find myself doing this over and over again. Cat, file name, cat, file name, cat, file name. And after you do it about 100 times, you realize that cats are cool. And if you are a dog person, of course, you are. Right, now that I've got you laughing, it's time to do the next thing, which is exercise. Now, exercise means you need to raise your hands left, right. If you stand up, it's even better, but I think some of you will find it difficult. So, how many of you have heard about Selenium IDE? Wow, that's a whole lot of you. Is it because you saw it on your program sheet, or you heard about it before that? Okay, so now that I have some of you raising your hands, or quite a lot of you, next question. How many of you have not heard about Selenium IDE? Brilliant. Okay, now the next question, how many of you actually use it? Wow, you people do use it. Every time I go to a conference, there are like only 2 or 3 people, so I think it's nice to have an audience where people actually use it. So you would probably find it very interesting about what I'm going to show you. I'm pretty excited. Well, now the other side, so that everyone gets equal opportunity to raise their hands. So how many of you do not use? Excellent. Well, exercise time is over. For those of you who haven't seen IDE, this is what it looks like. Now you may ask me, if you already know, why am I showing this? Well, I didn't know you already know this, so I had to put in a short screenshot for you. And the other reason I did it, because I recently moved to a Mac, and I couldn't figure out where everything was. So this is a good reminder for me, where everything is. So one of the key things that Selenium IDE lets you do is record and playback stuff. It's very simple. You don't need anything. You can just download this on from the website, install it on Firefox, and get going within less than 10 minutes. I think no other tool in the world lets you do this so quickly. And it's all very obvious. When you start, it starts in recording mode. You just do stuff in Firefox like you normally do, and it's capturing stuff behind and creates a test for you that you can run again. And yeah, one of the cool things is it can be extended using plugins. There are a lot of plugins. I must confess, I have written most of them. So yeah, I know. There are a lot of plugins and they do some really nice things. You can find it very useful. So explore, go there. I will tell you near the end of my presentation what is available and what is not. You can have a look. So for those of you who are using Selenium IDE and those of you who are not, the most important thing is why not? Whenever you try and look at a tool that you want to use, the first thing that you have to try and understand what are the disadvantages of it and why is it that you should not be using it. The simplest thing that Selenium IDE gives is it's simple. And when you are dealing with simple stuff, things get complicated as you have lots of it. We are used to stuff in normal programming for inheritance and code reviews, like Daniel mentioned, dry principle, don't repeat yourself, either try to reuse the same things. Selenium IDE doesn't have that. So if you're writing code, you will land up having to do the same thing over and over and over again. I know there are tools and plugins available that let you kind of solve these problems in a way, but as a rule, it doesn't have that. So, and also because it's meant to get you started, it doesn't have all these complex things that you find in the programming language, like if or conditional things, or loops, or creating new functions that you can call again. So these are the things that IDE does not give you. And if you find yourself wanting to use this kind of concept, believe me, move away from the Selenium IDE and learn a language. Things like Ruby and Python are really simple to learn. Java is also probably simple to learn, but it normally takes you longer to write code in it, so I don't really love it. But there are lots of languages that make you really easy to learn stuff. Learn them, it's not very hard. So you can start with Selenium IDE, do small simple things. And when you move beyond the power or beyond the things that it provides you, move away. Don't stick onto it. That's always a bad idea. Having said that, why should you use it? Well, first reason is it's simple. Even though it's simple, you can still get a lot of things done with it. And I will show you by the end of this presentation that it's moving even further. So you get more power and you can do stuff that you would have thought impossible. Even I think it's impossible, but let's not go there. Secondly, it does not require programming skills, so I believe most of you actually know programming or have seen programming at some level, but maybe some of your new colleagues don't know programming, so to get them started, this can be a very nice tool to do that. And yeah, I also see people, who are developers who start using Selenium IDE as, as something at the side. So if you're writing a piece of code that you really want to quickly test, and if you want to manually test it, then you would open a browser, type something, go there, see whether it works. And it can be very tedious. So people start to use the Selenium IDE to be more efficient or lazy. So they would record things first and then they would export it. As long as your tests are small, you can continue to just use that. And I'm trying to look at things to make the exporting easier, the code generation more smarter, and it would help. Yeah, and finding locators is also one of the things. So you can always figure out programmatically or looking at a page what should be the name. And if you are developing it, it's easy. But as a tester, if you want to look at something, it's always good to use the IDE, grab the location, and then use it. So a lot of things have been happening, and if you have seen my presentation from last year at the Selenium conference 2012, I gave a demonstration of a Webdriver playback. Has any one of you seen it? No? Fantastic. Okay. Daniel, you don't count. You've practically seen everything. But, well, if you haven't, there is a link on my blog to the video, you can see it. So I show how tests can be run in Selenium, using Selenium IDE in Internet Explorer. So today, I'm going to show you what can be done in other browsers. So, yeah. And this is your test running in real Webdriver code, so it should work. It should just work. So I'm going to step back and give you a small demo. Having said that, I just upgraded my version of Selenium Server to the latest one. And like Daniel mentioned, things break. So I'm hoping it hasn't broken. So let me open an instance of the IDE. So to change it, you need to switch this options, and I'll leave it at Firefox. One of the things that you have to do is if you change or enable or disable the Webdriver playback, you need to exit the IDE and start again. And now I have a small test case for us that I can just simply load. Okay. So you need to start the Selenium server before it can actually run the test. And this is something that happens so often. That's why I put in the error message. So have you started the Selenium server? Yes. So if you find yourself in this position, you should remember that you need the server running. That was part of the demo, by the way. So it takes a while. Yeah, that's why other things like what Ion is going to talk about and what other people talked about is very interesting. Try to avoid writing Selenium tests, they are slow. So what really happened here, if you look at this corner, this particular instance of Firefox has been now running using Webdriver. So that's the only way I can tell you that it's Webdriver. But something that you have not seen before would be running tests in other browsers. Because Firefox, so Selenium IDE was always a Firefox add-on, you could only record and playback tests in Firefox. And now it can play in any other browser that Webdriver supports. So yeah, I'm going to show you the next one pretty soon. Before that, I will show you the name in the slide. Internet Explorer, but Internet Explorer does not work on my Mac. I don't know if it still works on any Mac, but yeah, I stopped using it. And if you have the choice, I would suggest you should stop using it either. It's a source of a lot of pain. Yeah, some of us on the Selenium project know how painful it can be. Towards you, he has a lot of talent, and he keeps sticking maintaining the driver. I really appreciate what he does. Well, on a Mac, Safari is the default browser. So if you want to support the Mac audience, this is something that you have to support. And now you can run your tests using Selenium IDE on Safari. It's as simple as typing Safari. Since this is the first release of Webdriver playback, there are a lot of loose edges that I would like to improve. But the focus was to get as much functionality as possible, so you don't have things like a nice pick list for choosing the set of browsers and so on. But that would come soon. So if you want to run tests using Safari, the same test. Is it Safari? Yes, it is. Okay, so, Daniel, I have a question for you. How do you know that Safari is running Webdriver? I didn't see the Webdriver thing anywhere.
It just works.
Okay. It just works. So we shall take his word for it. And as you have seen, it just works. So these are all trivial tests. And as I can see, it did really work. Okay. We shall have it over to it again. Yeah. It can't find it. Cool. Apparently, it's taking a fairly long time for Safari to find cheese on Wikipedia. This is one reason why you should not use Selenium tests. They are slow. Okay, so I am just going to quit on this. If I put in a pause here, which is one of the worst things you can do, I want to see if this works. 10, 6, 5 seconds. And then to test again. Okay. And please believe me when I tell you, this is the worst thing you can do in your test. Do not do this. See, I told you, do not do this. So, let's get back to the old one. The reason why it's flaky is because it's highly experimental. I am still fixing all the problems that are in it. So in case you find your test failing in Webdriver like this, please let me know. So personally, I don't use Selenium at all. I do not do testing. So it's hard for me to find and fix these bugs. If you find them, let me know. After all, you are testers, right? Think about testing the IDE as well. We always need people. Sorry? Yes, I have to set the managed wait stuff, so implicit wait things, I know. In fact, this is one of the things that we were talking about. How long do you wait before you return? So that thing depends on what browser you're running, and I need to get that right. So yeah, that was Safari. It more or less works. I'm still getting used to the new Mac, so I don't know how to switch. So yeah, Chrome. This is also a test for me because it's fairly new, so it's a good way for me to find out whether it's working. And like Murphy's Law says, if it's not going to work, the best time it will stop working is when you're giving a presentation. Okay. Chrome is significantly faster. So if you want to run your Selenium test, I would suggest use Chrome. For some reason, it decides that it needs to wait for Chrome to finish properly, so there is no need to add pauses here. Okay, so these are all the simple things. Even though they are nice to run tests in a different browser, what if you are working on a tablet? What if you want to run it on an iPad? Is it possible to do that? What do you think?
Yes.
No. It's not possible because I don't have an iPhone here which can be connected and I can show you. But in theory, it is possible. I haven't tried it, but it should work. So let me show you what I have tried. I have tried running it in an iPhone simulator on the Mac, so I'm going to try and do that now. So we've started the Selenium server, which handles communication and running this actually test using Webdriver. But if you want to run it in the iPhone simulator or the iPad simulator, you need to start the simulator with the instances that I have a small script that's at the very end. And I'm going to start it. Let me see. Okay, now it's going to be very top. So I'm okay. I don't know if you guys can see it. No. Okay, cat. I told you cat was generated. So I'm just going to run the command first before I can. So yeah, what it does is it simply starts up. And it cannot find. really slow. Okay, so what's running now is an instance of a Webdriver in this particular simulator, and we can run this on it. Yeah, it will only run on the iPhone simulator if you tell Selenium IDE that you want to run it there. So it's pretty simple. Set it to iPhone, and hopefully it should work. Finding keys is a slow process. It's a really slow process, but ultimately it finds keys on the simulator. So hopefully on a real device it should be faster. I haven't tried it, so in case you guys want to try it, let me know. So that's keys on the iPhone simulator. So now if you want to run tests on a mobile device using the Selenium IDE, it's possible. It's slow, but it's possible. Yeah, so similarly, you should be able to do it for the iPad. I think you're tired already. You don't want to see me give you a demo of iPad, isn't it? There's one last thing that I do want to give you a demo of. It's pretty interesting. How do you know that the test is being run when you don't see it run? It's a philosophical question. But there is this new and very cool thing called Phantom.js, which is a headless browser, which is a real browser using WebKit, can execute JavaScript, but you can't see it. It's really awesome if you want to run, a set of server of machines and run that. You probably cannot, do not want to do that using Selenium IDE, but yeah. So you can run tests on Phantom.js, and the only reason I can justify why you want to do this is because you have seen your tests run so many times that you don't want to see them again. So that's the best use case why you want to do using Phantom.js. And I'm going to show you how it looks. Is that the right way to say it? How does it look? Because you're not going to see a thing. All we will see is that okay. I'm going to start the test. This is really, really weird because you can't see the browser running. But you can see that it moves forward, and in the end, hopefully, it will tell you that the test has passed. Oh. Flaky test is one of the first things that goes wrong. And in this case, it's got nothing to do with the test itself, but something wrong with Java.
You can put the pause.
I can close?
Pause. Pause. The
Pause. Yes, I can do a pause, but a pause won't help Java space grow any bigger. So I can probably kill a few processes and.
Just have a second again. I give you a second.
Yeah. I'll try to do that. Do I need to kill Phantom.js server as well? Okay. Let's try it one more time. But this is really cool. You can see that your tests are not, tests are being run. They may fail, they may pass, but you can't see what's going on. It's really cool. And all this is thanks to the good work of Ivan. He's going to talk today, and he's going to tell you more about why it's really cool. So now that the Selenium server is started, I'm going to run it one more time. Somehow when I ran it today morning at about 4 a.m., it was all running perfectly fine. I don't know what happened afterward. Okay, now we shall wait. One of the reasons why everything is slow is because all of you are using the internet. Yes, I have to share internet connection with you. A funny thing happened is when I had gone for the very first Selenium conference, I was about to give a demo and my internet stopped working. Try giving a demo about testing a web application without internet. It doesn't work. Well, now that thanks to Ivan, we have restarted the server and things are working just fine. Well, it's really cool. If you are running your test using Selenium IDE for like the 20th time, I'm pretty sure you don't want to see it. You just want to know whether it works or not. You don't want to see it run. So it can be very handy to do that. Well, now that I have shown you the new Webdriver playback, I really think it's nice and you have a lot more things to experiment with. Hopefully we'll get it to a stage where it's mature enough and it doesn't give, or if it finds all these things, it can take care of them on their own. So, yeah, what's next? What's next is this year I'm going to focus on improving code for the Webdriver stuff, add more features so all of it works. Hopefully you can get the tests running on an iPad, and then next time I come here I can show you. Okay, you can run tests on the iPad. One of the things is improve the code generation. So I'm going to introduce a couple of commands. One of them is find elements, which if you use Webdriver, you already know what it does. So the idea is to try and move Selenium IDE closer to the way you use Webdriver. So when you transition away from it, it's very simple. Yeah, I'm personally really excited about the last thing. It's not yet ready, but I can give you a sneak preview as to what is it like. I like to term them as experiments. I think you know why. So how many of you have heard about BDD, or behavior-driven development? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Nice. 17 people. So before I go into some details, I am not going to give you a talk on BDD. I think Dima did that last year, right? He gave a talk on BDD, so you can see that somewhere. I'm going to tell you what is it that is important when running a test. Obviously, whether the test should pass or fail. But other than that, if you want to go back and look at the test, what is it that is important? I think these three things are quite important. What is it that a test is doing? What are we testing? And what do we expect? These are the basic fundamentals of tests. And so far, what we had using Selenium IDE was this. Can anyone tell me what this does? I know it's really small, it's hard to read. It finds cheese on Wikipedia. You have seen it run about, what, 6 times? Well, so one of the most difficult parts is you look at a test, which is a series of actions and verifications, and try to figure out what is this doing. So you need to keep this kind of documentation somewhere else. And BDD is one of the tools that lets you do this very easily. So you have something like this, and I believe it's a lot more readable than this. The font helps. It is. So what is the test doing? This is what the test is doing. Wikipedia should have cheese. Why should it have cheese?
It's tasty.
Nice. Well, if you use Selenium, even the little are written using cheese. And everybody loves cheese. So Simon loves cheese. That's why a lot of tests use cheese. So this is what we are talking about. We are talking about when I want to search cheese. So if I go to Wikipedia page and I search for cheese, I see cheese. So this is some basic premise of behavior-driven development, that you can describe what your test does, and you can also execute them. So you can have this as an executable piece of code, and you can pick things up from it. So this is one of the very important reasons why behavior-driven development is important, because it lets you describe those 3 things. That is here. It makes it very easy to understand that. The other most important reason why behavior-driven development is important is this. If you can go and say that you know this, you get better salary and you get a better job. So keep in mind, this is very important. Okay, so one of the other things is you can do BDD in the language of your choice. I can't read this, but I'm hoping you can. I have no idea what it is. I just found it and copied it from the internet. So apparently it's a test and it's written in Russian. Good. So you can use Chinese, Russian, and it's like 30, 40 different languages where you can write your tests in. And I don't have a demo for you about this, but this was what I was working on. This is a real screenshot from BDD. It doesn't run yet, but what I'm trying to do is you can type this, and this is how it will look. So you can type all your stuff here, and just run this. The thing that I really am excited about is, for a very long time, people have been looking for ways to try and look at data and to have data-driven tests. You would like to give and say, okay, I want to search for cheese and I want to search for milk, but I don't want to copy this test again and have everything and just change two places where how to search for milk, how to search for cheese. And behavior-driven development allows you to do that. And if you look at this, the small change from before is that instead of a scenario, now you have a scenario outline. And a scenario outline lets you specify a set of examples or a set of things that you want to do. So in this case, the first line in examples tells you what is it that you want, where do you want to give this. So you want to give the search term to the when condition. I want to search for what, and then what should I see? That's the result. So BDD thinks tools like Cucumber or the tool that I've built into Selenium IDE would run this scenario multiple times. And each time it will give it different values from here. So you can have 2 values, you can have 5 values, so you can really do it again and again. It's really simple. So again, BDD will help you do that. And yeah, so we have plugins, and I've been told that I've taken too much time, so I can show you. So if you have time, you can directly download them from the Selenium org page or from the Mozilla add-ons page directly. Or of course, you can come to my blog and you'll find a link to all of them. So yeah, from the add-ons page you can just click and you can try them out if you haven't done that. And finally, remember, that's powerful. So thank you very much. You have been a great audience. And questions? Yes.
Just to be a pain, I will ask my question in Russian. There's one feature that I absolutely used to love in the Selenium IDE, which was super helpful to people who are new to Selenium or any language, and that is after you would record the test, it would easily transform it to Java or to Ruby or to Python or whatever. But I've seen that in one of the recent versions that feature was gone. Is that coming back, or can you maybe demonstrate if it's there to people how to use it, because I think it's a very helpful tool.
Sure. Let me tell you, it's not gone. It's still there. And the reason why you thought it's gone is because there were 2 versions of that feature. One is called exporting, where you actually export it out, and you get executable code that you can run. The other feature was called formats, where you could see, or in the IDE, what is that it is done. That feature was terribly broken. And you could lose what you're working on any moment. That's the reason it's been disabled. If you go to the link, it tells you how to turn it back on. So basically what has been done is it was marked experimental. So you have to go to the options and you can say enable experimental features and you'll get it back. So you can see, now you know that it is buggy behavior and you can use your test. But if you still want to go ahead, you can get it back. What I'm working on is something that is going to replace that. Something new, which I call live export. What it does is it will create a new window just next to it, and every time you type a command or change it, it is going to export it or show you the code in another language right next to it. You can make changes, and your changes cannot be executed because this is not a full-blown IDE for another language. But if you want to make quick and dirty edits there, you can do that. You cannot import these changes back into Selenium IDE commands or Selenium commands because if you use an if statement, there is no way to map an if statement from a JavaScript or a Java back to Selenium. It's just not possible. Even if it was, we would not do it, but that's another story. So it's going to help you. So it's, that feature that has been turned off is going to be improved. It's going to become better. And if your goal is simply to get Java code that you want to execute, you can still do it just straight away. It's there. It's there under the file menu, export, and you can do it. And if you are looking for, if you want to do a bunch of tests, I've written a plugin called Test Suite Batch Exporter, which can take like a bunch of test cases and convert all of them in bulk in one shot. So have a look. There was another question, yes.
The question is it run via JSON wire protocol, right?
Yes.
Yes, and the next question is about support of Selenium Grid. Will it support it?
I'm planning to do that, but the first step was to create it to run using Webdriver. Second step is to allow Grid. There are some areas that need more development, but we will work on that.
I'm just curious because not everybody runs on Mac, but I need to run some tests on Mac, and I have a simulator on another machine,
Right.
which connected via Grid.
Well, right now, very shortly, it should be possible to start up a Selenium server on the Mac and directly connect to that. So for the purpose of demonstration, it uses a Selenium server on the local machine, but there is no reason to do that. You can run it any way you like, including Amazon Web Services. So if you have a virtual server there in the cloud, you can run your test there. But the interface to allow you to do that is not yet in. So I'm working on that, but given a couple of months, you should have that. Grid would come later.
That's cool.
Thank you. Yes. And yeah, strictly, it doesn't really use JSON wire protocol, but it uses both the JSON wire protocol as well as something else. The Selenium emulation depends on which command is being run, and based on that, it would either use native JSON wire or like that. Can get messy. Any other questions?
I wanted to write several tests on Selenium and then run them on Selenium Auto exec server. But I couldn't manage doing it on Firefox and Google Chrome, though Internet Explorer worked. Can you explain maybe the reasons why it didn't work on Firefox?
Well, this is the first time I've heard that something is working on Internet Explorer and doesn't work on Firefox. Frankly, I don't know, but I'm going to be here today as well as tomorrow, so we can have a look and we can try to fix your problem. Any other questions?
You saw as a plugin for dedicated BDD behavior development or BDD. I have a question. You show syntax highlighting. Would you do you plan some autocomplete features like JDK or Cucumber?
Frankly, I don't know. Let's try that. There would be some kind of auto-completion.
To use steps that are made already.
Yeah, but right now you just have to type it like this. Yeah, but there would be some form of auto-completion, so it would come in one step at a time. So syntax highlighting is one of the first things that I wanted to bring in. And the reason I wanted to bring in is because most of the work is already done by the guys who wrote Cucumber. I've simply figured out how to embed these things inside it. So that's all. It took me a long time to fix all the stuff that didn't work and get them to work. But yeah, so now we have syntax highlighting. There should be auto-completion as well. And there would be tools to help you, create a new case. So just for you, just to show you how this is going to work, or the way I see it would work, is you can type in the feature here. You can import it from a file that you already have. If you used to be, we can have feature files that just simply text files. So you can already automatically import that. And the second thing is, when you come here, you would have a list of test cases on the side. You simply drag and drop there. You would have a list of all your steps, and if you want, you can click on the step and change it into a pattern by saying which of the parts of your step you want to pull out, and this would be passed as variables into your test case. And finally, when you run them by run feature, you would see the result here. It doesn't work right now, so. But yeah, I'm working on it, and we should have auto completion there as well. Yeah, I think so. I'm really excited about it. Any more questions? I think we are all ready for lunch. Right. So thank you very much.